Hello, everyone, and welcome to And the Beat Goes On. This is episode number 6. We are so excited that we are all here again, and we're excited to have our guest, Mr. Ivo Antognini, with us today. So welcome, Ivo. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And you?
I am doing great. Let me make sure everyone knows who we have on the line today. Let me start first with Lex. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Lex. I've been with the choir school for about 4 years now. I really love the sense of community we've built here, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Awesome. And Nishan.
Hello everyone, my name is Nishan. I've been here at the choir school for about 10 years and I really enjoy it.
Great. And Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany Stanton. I am the Director of Education and Assistant Conductor at the choir school.
Awesome. And I'm so glad that everyone could join us for this conversation today. Just a disclaimer here, my internet is a little finicky today. I am in a house where we have multiple teachers, and so a lot of broadband, a lot of Zooming going on. So if there's some technical difficulties or anything like that, please do forgive us. And we will do our best as we soldier on. And we know a lot of folks are on Zoom at the current moment, and we'll keep moving. Great. So, Mr. Antognini, can you tell us how you're doing? How is it going? Are you all healthy and well? What's going on in this COVID-19 world?
I am personally very healthy, and my family as well. I have my wife and a daughter. She's 18 years old, and a boy is 14 years old. We are very well, no problems. We are very lucky to live in a small village in the mountains, and so we can go out without problems, without any mask and other things. Disturbing things. We can go everywhere. We have no problems. Very lucky.
Awesome.
I must say.
And can you tell us exactly where you're living?
I'm living in Switzerland, so in the south part of Switzerland, the Italian part, very close to Italy. We speak Italian, and this is where I live.
Awesome. Sounds great. I wish I was able to go and walk in the mountains.
Yes.
And that's definitely not something that we have where we are. So that is a nice benefit. So glad to hear you're all well. And how are you making music during, this kind of period of isolation where things are shut down?
For me as a composer, it doesn't change so much. I'm not a conductor, and so I don't have the problem with the choir. And so I must say I'm very privileged in this moment. Also, I think I have more opportunity to compose, to think about composition. I'm still teaching. I'm a ear training teacher at the University of Music and piano teacher. And so I have to teach in a remote, of course, with the Zoom and Skype and so on. But anyway, I have time to compose. And so I'm living very well this time. I'm hopeful for the future of the humanity after this.
Yes. And do you find yourself having more time to write? Are you writing more during this period, or do you feel like you're about the same as usual?
I'm writing different, I think. I'm writing only if necessary. So I've reduced because it's a combination, because I have some commissions for the future, but I can wait a little bit more. And I have some other compositions that I want to write. So for me, not for free, so not paid, that I want to write. And so in this moment, I'm doing this, what I want to really to write for me. And I just finished a composition 2 days ago that is done on a poem by Emily Dickinson, and the title is Hope. And the hope is that so everything will finish. This nightmare will finish soon for all the world, and I hope that this little bird with Emily Dickinson speaks about this little bird that is near to us in these moments, difficult moments. So it will help us all this time for this pandemic.
I really look forward to that. I think that will be a great piece, and I think it will be certainly cathartic for many folks. I'm going to bring our coursers into this conversation here. Why don't we start off with Lex? Do you have a question for Mr. Antognini?
I do, in fact. So you compose music often influenced by jazz, yes?
Well, it's not right this influence, yes, because I was a jazz pianist, and so of course, but it's not only jazz, it's many things together. I was also a classical pianist. I did also music for films. I did also music for theaters, many different things. And so, of course, jazz is very important for the harmony. And I think it's a great plus if you also can do jazz. It's not jazz, so it's not mainstream jazz what I use in my compositions, but it comes from my jazz studies, of course. Yeah.
So when you're writing music in any form, particularly with instrumental, how do you write for instruments you don't know how to play? Like how do you go about that?
Normally, I should know a little bit this instrument, otherwise I don't write. Now I think I know almost every instrument because I wrote many different things. But normally there is a dialogue with the instrumentist, so that every time I can learn something new with this instrument. For instance, I wrote 2 months ago a piece for cello, but this is not a problem. Cello, violin, and harp. So harp is not my main instrument, and so I learned many new things with an harpist, good teacher that is here. And so normally I try to take the chance to learn things from this experience. Is
Awesome.
it what you? Okay. But
And any follow-up from that, Lex?
Nothing in particular. I think that's actually a really cool answer. Thank you.
Great. And Nishan, do you have a question for Mr. Antognini today?
Yes. It's actually about one of the songs you composed. I believe that you composed, arranged the O Magnum Mysterium.
Mhm.
Okay, so I wanted to hear you wanted the audience to feel from that piece. In other words, I wanted to know how you interpreted the piece from your own words.
Sorry, there was a problem with the audio. If you can repeat, please.
Oh.
There was a many, so please repeat. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to hear how you wanted the audience to interpret that piece.
It's a good question. I never think how the audience has to. I think that every people, everyone interprets the piece in a different way. I think it's difficult. I don't impose to interpret but what I meant was so it should be O Magnum Mysterium is a great mystery. So it should be a little bit mysterious, but it's a mystery, very, very joyful mystery. And so it's not something like Harry Potter. And so it's a completely different domain. And so I concentrated my energy on giving to this O Magnum Mysterium something joyful and peaceful and positive. And so that's, it's not a so a piece, so it's only a piece, a very gentle piece. I think that this, and then the people can receive this piece in different ways, I think. How do you receive it, Nation?
How did I receive the piece? It was, I like the contrast of the piece, how it would go from being loud and embraceful to being quiet and silent. In other words, it took you on an emotional roller coaster of just words and notes and rhythms. I think I'm rambling on.
It's okay. But one thing I think that's really interesting about the O Magnum is there are so many settings from the Renaissance era all the way through today. And one of the things, like when we look at modern settings of O Magnum Mysterium, we all think of Morton Lordson's too, which is nearly 6 minutes in length and is a period of stasis for the most part. And yours is about maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So how did you get through all of it as more quickly? Like how, I don't know, like what was kind of your thought, like, you know, composing O Magnum and, you know, post the Morton Lordson kind of composition?
First of all, I must say that I composed this piece for the choir that my wife conducts, and she has so I sing also in this choir. It's a parish choir. We are 20, and so no one is a professional singer, and so we have very big limits. And so this was the target, was to compose a piece for Christmas for this choir, and that's why it's a simple piece. But anyway, I try to put quite a lot counterpoint in this piece so that it's not homorhythmic and homophonic. And this is the thing that I think it's interesting in this piece, because it's a very short piece, very easy piece, but it's never easy because it's challenging. Also, it's interesting to see that there are professional choirs singing this piece and very, 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 very amateur choirs singing the same piece. And this is difficult, more difficult to compose an easy piece like O Magnum Mysterio than extra difficult pieces. I don't have problems when I have no limits, but when you have such so limits you. You can't go over the F, the high F, perhaps. Perhaps you can arrive at E, F. It's terrible, and then it's difficult to compose music, interesting music. So, and it's very different from Lauritz and Omagno Mysterium. Of course, I like very much Lauritz and like Omagno Mysterium. It's another word, I think. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's nice to that it's so different in kind of the feel and character of it. And what I also like about it, the Omanium, it's like is that it is accessible, and because of the length of it compared to some longer settings, you can use it in some liturgical senses. You can use it in concerts, so it kind of lends itself to you can use it in a lot of different ways. You really can use it a lot of different ways, and know that like you don't have to necessarily do something that's going to be 6 minutes, you know, with the Lord's Sin, which of course we all love as well. Brittany, do you have any questions for Mr. Antognini?
Yes, I am curious how you got started in your composing career. What was the first project you worked on? Where'd your idea come from? Can you tell me about that?
Yes, of course. It's I was 8, so when I was 5, 6, 7, I played. My father tells me, I don't remember, but they told me that I was always playing some instruments in a xylophone, saxophone, plastic saxophones, and flutes, and other instruments that we have, percussions. And then my father, when I was 8 years old, I arrived at home after school, and then I found a piano, so a vertical piano, upright piano in my home, and it was fantastic. So I went there and I began to play. I had it was so inspiring, and then in a couple of days I could already play some pieces. I don't know which piece, but my father tells me, yeah, we are playing pieces, and then I asked you, but from where does this piece come? And I told him, I don't know, but it's nice with 2 hands. And so then I went to a teacher, to a piano teacher in the small village where I lived, not this one, another one, bigger than this. And then I learned how to play the piano, but not the notes. I couldn't read notes until I was 14 years old. So I could play Chopin studies, but by ear. I asked the teacher to play for me, and then I do so still. So that's why I'm an ear training teacher now, but I do so. She played, I played. She played, I played, and then I memorized, and it was done. The notes, a little bit I knew. The rhythm, nothing at all. I couldn't read it. And so also when I played, I remember my diploma, when I played Beethoven sonata, at a certain moment I forgot completely the real Beethoven, and I began to improvise something like Beethoven during the exam. And then at the end, the expert told me, well, it was a very, very nice version, but which edition is this? Which edition? It's not an edition. It's improv. So I must say that it was very difficult to be a classical pianist. In fact, I stopped immediately because I always wanted to change something in the score, and it was not for me. And so that's why I studied jazz. And but I always composed, always. But I never learned with a teacher, actually. I never. So I learned everything from Johann Sebastian Bach, Beethoven, Mozart. And I went to the University of Music, of course, and then I studied music, how to read music, and now I can read music very well.
Awesome.
So now I'm.
That's amazing. And can you tell us, like, what can we be doing, like, with ear training? Like, what can we do to better train our ears? And what can we do as choral directors and choir singers, choristers, to like have better intonation, and to just, what can we do to make our ears more sensitive?
This is a good question. I think that it's difficult to say something in general. I should go and see the choir, and then perhaps I could say you something helpful. But so in general, what I notice when I listen to choirs singing my music is that only a few, very few conductors in my music, which is normally quite complicated in the harmony, very few conductors can so mix the choir, the volumes of each voice good. So in a chord, you have to sing piano, you mezzo piano, you mezzo forte, and this. So this is the most difficult thing, I think. Okay, intonation. Okay, of course, if a choir is not is out of tune, it's done. It's impossible to change it. We can work on it. You have to listen to the others, but this is, every choir has these problems. But this is the thing that I think only a few conductors can do. Regulate the single voices to highlight other voices, and then go quickly in a piano and then a forte, to like a mixer when you have all the you know. So this is what is more difficult.
I definitely think that's true. And one of the things that I think you're right. I've often thought like, how do we make, as choral conductors, how do we know which notes to bring out in the chord? Like, when I'm conducting a piece of music, I'm always looking for what's kind of tense and is going to release, but what do you have any suggestions for, like, what, when you have a chord that's like, has ninths and 13ths and all these things in it, how we should tune those chords? Are there certain like pitches that you're like, yeah, bring that out, and or do you think it kind of goes choir to choir?
No, I have my idea, of course, and I compose this in this way. It's difficult for me to write everything on the score, because I think it's also nonetheless, because it's too much. Then the conductor feels like in prison, and I don't like this. Normally, when I write a piece, I give it to the conductor, and the conductor is the boss. And so I think this is the most important thing, that the conductor has the responsibility to give to life this piece. But I can understand that it's difficult to do this work, but it's intuition. So I see that there are conductors that can, perhaps it's not only the conductors, it's also the choir that is so has the habit to do this. I don't know why, but it's very, very big difference from a choir and the other. Normally, when I listen to my music, I have the impression normally that it's always so flat, and this is not good. It must be so very different scenes. So it's very, it must be very different textures, and this is not so often the case. But it's difficult. I know it's very difficult. When I work with a choir, so then it changes normally from here. So this is what I do very, very gladly. Now it's very difficult to do this. It's impossible, but this is what is important, I think, to work with the composer for a choir, to have this opportunity. And for me, it's also to learn many things. Every time that I work with a choir, I learn so interesting things.
And I'm curious, what are some of your favorite choral pieces or choral composers? Like, are there some composers or choral pieces, particularly that just have really resonated with you that you feel like have been formative, just kind of, in your experience as a composer?
You mean living composers?
They don't necessarily need to be living.
Mm.
Most of my formative ones are long gone.
Mm. So it can be, I have a big list, but normally it's not the composer, especially in choral music, but it's some pieces of this composer. I can tell you, of course, beginning from the past, I would say Mass in B minor, Johann Sebastian Bach, for instance, and then not Handel, some Handel. I like very much Handel choirs, choir music, but going more modern, I would say Pierre Villette. Not many people know this composer, but he's a very, very fine composer. Pierre, do you know it, Arion?
Yeah, I do. I've never
Yeah.
done any of conducted any of the works, but I've sung a number.
It's like the prehistoric Whitaker. So it's a little bit, we could say, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I like some pieces, many pieces, I would say, from Lauritsen, especially the madrigals.
The fire madrigals are incredible.
Yeah.
They're just brilliant, brilliant works.
From Whitaker, I like very much Sleep and Water Night. I don't like so much the modern pieces, the last pieces, but anyway, these two pieces are fantastic for me. And I like from Esenwalds something very much. And from Paul Miller also I like music. I like, but I don't want to forget, but there are so many composers that from Runestad, I saw his last piece that in Salt Lake City, where I was in March. This piece is called Elegy, I think. Yes. Fantastic piece, very emotional. I was there at the concert. I cried.
Wow, that's
so
great.
it was very, very, yeah,
really cool stuff.
but I really in this moment I really don't want to forget, but I like many different pieces from living composers, and it's very nice to also to know them personally and to exchange.
And that's one of the things that I love about you is that you're so accessible as a composer. I know that we see these composers as like, oh my goodness, who are these rock stars, these superstars, and it feels like oh my gosh, I can't talk to them. And that's totally, almost all choral composers are really down to earth and really want to engage with people. And that was one of the things that I actually, loved about you. Like when I was studying at grad school, and during grad school, we kind of stumbled upon some of your work when Santa Fe Desert Chorale was first doing some recordings, and Rose of Sharon and a couple other of those pieces. And I remember you were just so happy to Skype with us, to, work with the piece. And then I also remember meeting up in 2013 at ACDA and, having Mexican food at Senor Bean. And it's just like, it's so great that you're so accessible and are lending your ideas and ears to folks. So I think it's great. And I want to thank you for that, because I think it really, for me, it's like, oh yeah, if you have a question, you can just ask the composer if they're a living composer. Isn't that the great thing about living composers? So thank you for being so accessible and open. I think that is great. I think it's wonderful. And I hope that people know that they can reach out to you. And you're always there. One thing I also wanted to chat about was this piece that you wrote that we did sing in Dallas. This was the University of Delaware Chorale. When I was a graduate student, I particularly, this piece meant a lot to the choir and a lot to me personally, because I had already been teaching full-time at this point. And so I was trying to finish, you know, a degree while also teaching. And it was just like a really crazy time in life trying to balance all the things. And it was the first time I heard There Will Come Soft Rains, and it was just an absolutely incredible experience. And when preparing for today's show, I was thinking, what piece, because I love all of your music, and I was actually thinking, maybe we'll do some Rose of Sharon, maybe we'll do O Magnum, you know, maybe we do the O Gloriosa, which is another one I really love, and I'm really looking forward to doing with our group sometime soon. But then I was looking at the texts, and I think that this Sarah Teasdale text is just absolutely brilliant and works, and it's so meaningful for the times that we're living in with COVID-19 and dealing with coronavirus. So I'm just going to just share that text, and then we're going to listen to a recording of it. I think it's just brilliant work. I think it is a fantastic poem. I think it is just wonderful and really works well. So here you can see the text of this poem. I'll just read it aloud. There will come soft rains in the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of the war, not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone. And even though this talks about like a wartime poem, I think it works just so beautifully for this this kind of wartime with COVID-19, and more importantly, this virus of fear, particularly in the choral community, about when we'll ever be able to sing together. And it really puts things, I think, in perspective. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to a recording. This recording is from 2013. This is the University of Delaware Chorale, conducted by Dr. Paul Head, conducting your There Will Come Soft Rains. So let me just get that queued up, and hopefully Zoom will cooperate with us today. And I want to thank ACDA for their fantastic sharing of National Convention videos so we can see this. Swallow Wow, just such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. It's just incredible. So thank you for writing that. I love it. I will never forget just that piece and the speaking the mankind and trying to tune whistling, which was really super hard.
I know.
Like that was a whole thing trying to give, whistle and tune, very, very difficult. But my God, just what an incredible piece. I think a great piece that speaks really to the times that we're living in. I want to bump to Lex and Nishan to ask a couple last questions as we get ready to wrap up today. Lex, why don't we start with you?
Okay. I was wondering, so you compose a lot and you play the piano. Do you sing by any chance?
Do you what? Sorry?
Do you
sing? If I sing?
Yes.
Yes, I think every time I'm singing normally, but I'm singing for myself. I sang once in a semi-professional choir, but my voice is not so interesting for a choir. That's why I compose. But I'm not, so I can sing everything. Normally when I write my pieces, I sing every voice, but my voice is not so, the color of my voice is not so particularly wonderful for a choir. So I'm sorry, but I can do baritone, so a quite good baritone, but so. But I love singing. I sing when I work at the university, when I walk, I sing, I whistle, I think about music. I'm always, there is something singing in me, yeah.
And Nishan, do you have a last question as we get ready to wrap up today?
Yes. I wanted to ask, what process do you go through in your head for when you're brainstorming for a particular type of text for your piece?
First of all, I must know the text very well, what it means, how to pronounce the rhythm of the rhythm of the words, and so. And then I must say, I'm very lucky because I suddenly something happens in me that I begin to imagine colors, sounds, situations, textures, and I don't go to the piano immediately. Normally I wait, and then when it's mature, so I go to the piano, and I don't know, I think that 10 seconds, 20 seconds is for the beginning of the piece, or for the main theme. And then when I have this this beginning, this I can develop a piece. So a 30 minutes piece or a 2 minutes, it depends on the situation. But I must have something that comes, so grows in me, and then I don't know how it happens. I really don't have explanation for this, but it happens every time. Now I'm waiting for my next piece. I must choose the text still, and then I will wait until something grows in me. Then I will tell you how it works. But every time it's different. Every piece has its genesis, and it's very, very different. But something in me happens, and then I know what I have to do.
And Brittany, do you have a last question?
I'm just curious if there's anything we should be keeping our eyes out for in these coming months as a result of having more time to compose for yourself. I'm wondering if there's anything we should be looking for.
I'm not a prophet, but I think that perhaps I didn't understand very well the question.
Are there any compositions that you're currently working on that
Okay.
we might see soon?
Okay. Yes, of course. I finished last month. Yes, in April, I finished Regina Coeli that I wrote for a very good friend in Italy. It's a very, very so difficult, rhythmic and spectacular piece. So quite difficult. And then Hope that I wrote, I finished 2 days ago or 3 days ago, which is so not so difficult piece, but very colorful and very, I would say, hypnotic piece. So, and next piece, I don't know how it will be. I will wait. I don't know, but these are my last 2 pieces. But I think every month I do one piece, 1.5. So, but I'm not a full-time composer. I only compose when I have time and when I need to compose. So otherwise I would have composed 1,000 pieces, but perhaps more similar. And so I have time to go do other things and change my mind. I think it's better for me.
And do you have any advice for us, for our students, for everyone watching today? It can be musical advice, advice about life. If you wanted to give us a piece of advice, I know we're putting you on the spot here, but what would that piece of advice be?
This is a good question. Very big responsibility in me.
Yeah.
What could I say? Think with your mind and go with your heart. This is what I would say. And respect the others, but respect yourself as well. This is what
that's great advice. I think that's wonderful advice. Well, we're coming to the end here, and we're going to play our quarantine quiz. So our quarantine quiz is 90 seconds, so it's 1.5 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll ask some questions. Brittany will read the questions for us, and if you've done those things, you'll put your finger on your nose. So this is just like a little fun bit that we've been doing with all of our guests. Let me just pull up our timer for today. I've got 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock. You can't see it well, but you'll start seeing a picture of a duck appear, and it'll start quacking when we're all out of time. So here we go.
Nose goes, if you wore pajamas for 24 hours or more, Cleaned everything around you way more than usual. Attempt a virtual choir video and fail. Have to beg someone to stay home. Pretend to be frozen or muted on Zoom. Become that person at Costco. Purchase more than 10 rolls of toilet paper at a time. Made a new recipe. Gave in to Tiger King. Skipped a shower. Coughed and wondered. Taken a face mask selfie. Spent more time on social media than off. Made a TikTok video. Baked bread. Cut your hair. Did a puzzle. Played a board game. Slept past noon. Forgot to brush your teeth. Worked from your bed. Buy snacks for a week and run out in a day or two after going to the store. Hid away in your room because your family was driving you crazy. Shopped online for something you didn't need. Binge watch. Oh, time's up.
All out of time. Well,
Okay.
Ivo, I just want to thank you again for joining us. It was such a pleasure to catch up. It's been far too long. I love following everything that you're doing. I loved the Brock composition as well. We heard Rowan sing it at ACDA, and they just knocked it out of the park. It was just absolutely just incredible. So for those who
Thank you
haven't
very
checked that out, please do check that out. You can check out Ivo online. He has an extensive YouTube page. If you just look up Ivo Antognini, you'll find him both his website and his YouTube channel, where you can check out all of his works, many of which you can see parts of scores. Matthew Curtis is singing a lot of parts, so you can get a good sense if you're looking to program some works. I want to thank our choristers, Lex and Nashan, for joining us, and of course Brittany for joining us as well. And thank you, our audience watching on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And we are really looking forward to next week's episodes. So next week we have Dr. Marcus Garrett joining us, and we also have Dr. Chris Thomas, who's joining us from Rowan University. So we're really, really excited about our guests next week. Again, thank you, Ivo, for being with us.
Thanks to you. Thank you.
Oh, it's our
Really.
pleasure. And to
It was a pleasure.
everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.